Hello, welcome to the next in our series of videos on demystifying IFRS 9's impairment requirements. I'm Sandra Thompson. I lead our Global Accounting Technical Group for Financial Instruments, and I'm here today with Mark Randall. Mark's in our UK banking practice and has been helping our UK banks as they implement IFRS 9. Today we're going to talk about credit cards and similar revolving credit facilities. Now, those of you who've been following us will know we've already done a video on this subject, number 8 in the series. What we're going to do today is to refresh and take forward the discussion then. So in our previous video, we outlined the basic requirements of IFRS 9, in particular to look beyond the contractual life of a credit card when determining expected credit loss. We also told you about the 3 factors that IFRS 9 says you have to consider in determining that life. And just to refresh you, those 3 factors are the life of similar financial instruments, the periods of default on similar financial instruments, and lastly, what the standard calls credit risk management actions. So that might be, for example, reducing or terminating an unused facility as a result of an annual credit review. When we did that last video, there were still ongoing discussions about which of those 3 factors to apply in which circumstances, and in particular the last one, the credit risk management actions, and when that would apply. So our advice to you then was to build some flexibility into your modelling as the thinking evolved. Now, there have been further discussions, including at the IASB, and thinking is now clearer, and that's what we're going to take you through today. So Mark, I think this is probably best walked through with an example. Can you tell us where we've got to?
Sure, Sandra. So in the board paper that the IASB staff took to the IASB board, there's a very helpful numerical example that is probably simplest to use. And in that scenario, there was a reporting entity, a bank, for example, with 100 facilities, and at its reporting date, looking out over the coming year, they modelled or estimated that there would be 70 of those 100 facilities where there was no increase in credit risk, and then 30 where there was an increase in credit risk, but that their estimate was that only 15 of those 30 would credit risk management action be taken. In that example, it was a removal of the undrawn lines. And what that worked example is clear about is that in looking at part C of those 3 criteria you outlined, that if you're only expecting to take credit risk management action against the 15, then you can only curtail the life out over which you're looking to 1 year if you expect that action to be taken in 1 year. For the 15 where there has been an increase in credit risk but no credit risk management action has been taken, and similarly for the 70 where there was no increase in credit risk, the clock, as it were, is still ticking. The life is not curtailed at 1 year, it will be some length of time greater than 1 year. So really it reinforced the messages from the previous ITG that you can really only take account of actions you actually expect to happen. And in particular in that example, the annual review was applied to all 100 of those loans, but that of itself did not stop the clock at 1 year. What really matters is what actually happens, and it was the termination of those lines in that example.
Thanks, Mark. I think that's a very clear example. Now, Mark's example, the credit risk management action, was to totally remove the unused facility. What's perhaps more common in practice is that the unused facility is reduced, so cut, rather than being completely removed. And the obvious question is, well, what do you do in that circumstance? And we think, consistent with the whole approach of only cutting to the life to the extent there is a credit risk management action, you would only stop the life to the extent that the credit risk facility is taken away. So if you remove half of the facility and the other half is still there in place, then you would need a longer life for that half of the facility that remains in place. So Mark, is there anything else that banks should be thinking about in this area?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of points I would highlight. The first is that when this part of IFRS 9 is talked about, as I think we have on this video, people often lapse into talking about credit cards and very much think about it as applying to retail credit cards and overdrafts. Whilst that's clearly a key area where this will impact, I think it's important to step back and look at the actual requirements of the standard. They don't narrow and explicitly state that this will only apply in those areas. So I think it's important to look at the full range of revolving credit facilities and determine which ones will be in the scope of this and which ones would not be, because they don't meet the scoping requirements. So that's the first point. And then the second point I'll draw attention to is around disclosure. the very fact that we've done 2 videos on this topic says there's judgment in there. There is likely to still be some variety of practice. So what will be important is that where the judgments taken do have an important impact, a significant impact on the resulting numbers, that those judgments are clearly explained within the disclosures that go out in the first IFRS 9 accounts, and thereafter if they continue to be an important judgment. So they're the 2 key points I'd highlight.
So just to recap, how to determine the life of a credit card facility for ECL measurement purposes has been an area of some debate. We now have more clarity, and the key thing to remember is you can only reduce the life as a result of a credit risk management action to the extent the bank will actually take action, so will actually reduce or withdraw an unused facility. The other 2 things to bear in mind are this is not just credit cards. You need to think more broadly the scope of those requirements and about other revolving credit facilities where the same treatment applies. And finally, don't forget disclosure, and please don't leave your disclosure till last. That's it for today. I hope you'll join us next time. Bye-bye.